Hello everyone, today we are breaking down The Witcher Nightmare of the Wolf, the animated prequel that was just released on Netflix and centers around Vesemir. Remember to like the video, it helps out the channel a lot, and subscribe, and yada yada yada, let's get to it. The first thing we see is a family being attacked in the woods. The creature is a Leshen or Leshy. There is not a whole lot of info on these creatures, they do not appear in the books, but they do appear in the game. In the bestiary, they are described as fiercely territorial creatures. They hunt with stealth and cunning as their only companions. They use their inborn magic to control the plants and animals within their territory. Vesemir appears to fight the creature after it has killed most of the family. He remarks how strange it is to see one near Kaer. They are much more common in Velen or Skellige. Then the Leshen transforms into a bunch of birds. Vesemir also comments how it's a trailblazer and it's flaunting the new fad. This means Leshens haven't been able to transform since recently. They are gaining new abilities. They are mutating somehow. This becomes the main focus in the story later on. While Vesemir is fighting the Leshen, he gets picked up into the air and uses a grappling hook to return to safety. This is new. It's not in the books or games for that matter, but I could see this in The Witcher 4. It would add a new dynamic to the game. Vesemir then drinks a potion. The one he is drinking increases his speed and strength. He then uses the sign Ard on the monster. Signs are simple spells witchers can cast with one hand, making them very useful in combat. Ard is a telekinetic thrust that can knock back opponents. The anime has seemed to have turned up everything a notch and made it much more powerful versus what we have seen in the games or even the TV show for that matter. Vesemir then puts oil on his sword. This just increases the damage of the sword. There are different oils for different things, but usually it's almost like a poison to whatever they are fighting. Vesemir then traps the Leshen in the tree, then uses Igni, another sign, which is the fire one. While the monster is burning to death, it speaks as if it is calling out to someone, which is strange because they cannot speak. Vesemir even mentions this during the fight. In the next scene, we are at a council meeting at Kaer. The boy who survived the attack is retelling his story to the king and the council. The boy mentions how Vesemir did not escort him there, and pretty much just leaves him in the woods to fend for himself. Tetra Gilchrist, a sorceress who is trying to use this reason to attack the Witcher stronghold of Kaer and get rid of the Witchers. Tetra is a powerful sorceress who is descended from one of the continent's first mages. She and her followers do not want magic being abused, and she believes Witchers are abominations that need to be dealt with. But she also has a personal reason for wanting to get rid of them, which is revealed later in the story. The person who opposes her is Lady Zerbst, who is an avid defender of the Witchers. She also has a personal reason why she does not want them harmed, which is revealed later on in the story. Tetra, during her arguments, suggests that the Witchers are staging these monster attacks, that the population of these monsters has gone down because of the Witchers. And with that, that means there's less coin for them. But this is just a theory of hers. She has no proof, and the king dismisses it. The next scene is of Vesemir in a bathtub speaking with Filavandrel. Filavandrel is the elf we see in the second episode of Season 1 of The Witcher. Elves age very slowly, that's why this is possible. Vesemir is discussing what the Leshen said to him. Filavandrel does know the tongue. It is an ancient elven dialect known as Elion. The Leshen said, "Beware the den of my dead." Vesemir also mentions how there was an energy coming from the woods. Something was bewitching the Leshen. Filavandrel reveals that elvish girls have been disappearing from their ranks for the last 4 summers. The first to vanish was a young mage named Kitsu, who spoke Elion. Filavandrel wants Vesemir to join him to investigate the woods, but he declines. He is a monster hunter, and he does not work for free. This shows another side of the Witchers. When you follow Geralt, he always tries to do the right thing for the most part. But that's not how all Witchers operate. Some are driven by coin and can choose to ignore things like this. In the next scene, there is a flashback, and we see a young Vesemir. He's working for a wealthy family and seems to be underappreciated. The lady of the family seems mad and spouting nonsense as well, almost as if she is possessed. They introduce Ileana, who also works for the nobleman. Vesemir complains to her about the nobleman, how they get no coin, not enough food, and the sleeping accommodations are awful. Ileana is content with their lives, and she tells Vesemir it could be worse. But Vesemir does not see it that way. Like many, Vesemir wants to escape his ordinary life for an extraordinary one, with adventure and glory. The two are supposed to buy herbs for the lady, but instead buy honey cake and steal the herbs with a rather clever scheme. While celebrating their successful heist, they almost share a kiss. Which makes sense, the two seem to be vibing. But they are interrupted by Deglin, a witcher. He watched the whole thing go down. Deglin has been hearing rumors of a noble lady seeing visions and having fever dreams. He remarks that the herbs they have stolen will help ease the affliction, but will not cure it. They need the help of a witcher. And he tells the kids to take him to the noble lady. This shows how smart Deglin is. A noble family is going to pay much more than any other contract available. The creature that plagues this woman is known as a Mar and is a demon. This is a new monster. It is never mentioned in the books or games. It lives within the victim. It causes the host to see horrid delusions, and it feeds off the madness it causes. Deglin makes a circle out of crushed meteorite ore around the bed. This disrupts the demon's magic, allowing the Mar to be removed. Meteorite ore does appear in the first two games of The Witcher, but is used to make swords. Everyone leaves the room except Vesemir and Deglin. Deglin instructs Vesemir to catch the demon when it comes out. Deglin wants to study it and know more about it, so he wants it alive. Deglin begins casting a spell. He's speaking the Elder Tongue. He seems to be trying to exorcise the demon out of the woman. The demon comes out of the woman's mouth and leaps at Vesemir. At one point, Vesemir touches the spider-like creature and he sees Ileana, but a more spider-like version of her. The creature almost flees, but Deglin puts a knife through it before it can escape. You can see the powerful magic the demon uses. It can get in your head and use friends and family in its illusions. Deglin is leaving when Vesemir meets him in the courtyard. Deglin shows him the big bag of coin he got for saving the noble woman. He then says fear and ignorance are good for business. What he is stating here is that regular people are kind of dumb when it comes to monsters. The more fearful and the less they know about the monsters, the more a witcher can charge. That was probably one of the reasons why he told the others to leave the room. If they saw how easy it was to dispatch the demon, the bag of coin would not be as heavy. Vesemir then asks Deglin to take him with him. Vesemir does not want to fetch water or bedpans for noble men and women anymore. Vesemir sees this as his chance to get away from the life of struggle and become something more. He sees the bag of coin Deglin got and is intoxicated by it. He sees what he can buy, how he can help his father, how he can help his loss, Ileana. Deglin mentions her to him as well, which causes Vesemir to hesitate. If Vesemir leaves, he leaves her behind as well. Could he do that to the person he deeply cares about? Deglin leaves him to ponder that and rides off. We then see Vesemir and Ileana hanging out by a lake. Vesemir is in deep thought about what he should do. Ileana is teasing him about it, believing he wouldn't actually go. She says, "The only way people like us survive is to dream of ourselves as something else," which helps people cope with their situation, even though it's not exactly a healthy thing to do. Vesemir seems angry after hearing this. He does not want to end up like his father, meek and penniless. Vesemir then tells her he could buy her anything if he became a witcher. She replies with, "So trade my debt with a master I hate, with a debt to one that I love," and storms off, leaving Vesemir to ponder this. To be honest, this argument doesn't make a whole lot of sense. She would be free to do what she wants to do. No more waiting on ladies and noblemen. Unless she means she would be indebted to Vesemir because he's becoming a witcher for her. Which would then make sense why she believes she'd be indebted to him. Later that night, Vesemir leaves Honeycake under her bed and leaves for Kaer, the school of the Witcher, where witchers are made and trained. We then return to present Vesemir. Entering Kaer, we meet some forgettable other witchers named Luca and Sven. Luca is complaining how he didn't make a lot from this year of monster hunting, and that there is now going to be more competition because Sven brought in more recruits. So this seems to be an ongoing narrative throughout the story that monsters seem to be dwindling and more witchers aren't really needed, Which brings up the point of why they are continuing to make Witchers if there's a shortage of monsters. Just wait until the Witcher numbers start dropping. As some of you may have guessed, which they reveal later on in the story, these recruits are Geralt, Lambert, and Eskel. So this is a little different from what we were shown previously. Vesemir is the one who picks up Geralt after his mother abandons him, at the end of Season 1 in Geralt's flashback. I'm not sure why they are changing this. I assume they just wanted to have a fun little Easter egg in there, but whatever, let's move on. Vesemir leaves the training of the new recruits to Luca and Sven. He has no interest in it. So they are trying to show how far Vesemir has come, because Geralt and a lot of other Witchers like Lambert and Eskel look at Vesemir as a father figure. Vesemir is shown the letter that Tetra is posting around towns, saying, "Witchers are rogues and have no place amidst honest men." Tetra is the lady who was arguing earlier to have the Witchers killed. She is trying to build support for her way of thinking with propaganda. Deglin then mentions how he has lost 24 Witchers to other employers. So this is probably becoming sellswords and mercenaries, and they need Vesemir to help train the recruits, unlike the prior years. So they at least do give a reason why they need to train more to fill the ranks, which is good to see. Deglin then mentions the Leshen Vesemir slew, and how it could have been bewitched by a crone or a higher vampire, which is what Vesemir assumes. Deglin doesn't seem too pleased to hear this, wishing for some more monsters, which would be good for business. In the next shot, we see Tetra and some other peasants around a bunch of corpses. Some were complaining and wondering why didn't the Witchers not handle this. In the crowd, we see Filavandrel also investigating the scene, still wondering if the elvish girl that went missing is behind this. We then see Tetra and Lady Zerbst. Tetra says that a basilisk is what killed the men. Basilisks are very dangerous creatures. They have bird-like beaks, webbed wings, hooked talons, and crimson dewlaps. But their most dangerous weapon is their venom. It is one of the strongest known toxins. Tetra wants Lady Zerbst to help her convince the king to send an envoy to investigate the stronghold of Kaer to see if they are staging these attacks. Lady Zerbst will not agree to do this because she does not want to accuse Witchers of a crime that there is no proof of. We then find out the identity of Lady Zerbst. She is Eliana. Witchers age very slowly, so that's why Vesemir looks like he's still in his prime, and Eliana looks her age. So this could be another reason why Lady Zerbst is so insistent on protecting the Witchers, because she knows Vesemir is part of them and does not want an ill fate to fall upon him. We then get another flashback where Luca is imitating what Deglin had said to them. Vesemir tells him he is preparing us for the path. The path is the journey a Witcher goes on after leaving Kaer. So when they are hunting monsters and are out and about pretty much. We then see one of the recruits crying. We find out that he is there by law of surprise, and Luca explains it pretty well. A fancy name for when you can't pay a Witcher. Give him your kid. As you may know, this is why Ciri is Geralt's destiny, because he called on law of surprise to her father. Vesemir tries to comfort Tomas, saying how after the trial of the grasses, they will be stronger than any human alive, that he will come out better than normal. Vesemir then goes to sleep and wakes up and finds himself in a swamp with the other recruits. They all have Witcher medallions on. Witcher medallions sense magic and magical beings. They vibrate when one is near. Sven says this is the Red Swamp, and it is cursed with evil spirits and beasts. Vesemir figures out that this is a test and comes up with a pretty good game plan. But that plan is soon blown up when wraiths appear. Wraiths suffer endlessly, indescribable pain. Filled with anger and a sense of having been wronged, they both envy the living and brim with overwhelming hatred for them. A wraith is a deadly adversary even for a Witcher, but children without weapons, they never really stood a chance. And many of the recruits are slaughtered. Another monster appears in the swamp. It's hard to say what it is. I believe it's a necrophage, probably a ghoul. It's pretty much corpse eater. It takes out Tomas. Another creature attacks, taking off Sven's arm. This one is classified as an insectoid, but what species, I have no idea. Vesemir starts running, and the creature gives chase, forces Vesemir off the cliff. Vesemir awakes with only 2 other recruits being alive, Luca and Sven. Some have called this the Red Swamp Trial, and this is not in the books or the games. In the book, the first trial recruits go through is the trial of the grasses, which is injecting them with herbs and mutagens, which gives them their abilities, which we see later on in the movie. Only 3 out of 10 survive that trial. My point is that the Red Swamp is kind of pointless. It's literally just luck if you survive. Most die from the trial of grasses anyways, so you're potentially killing would-be witchers in a situation where there is not a good chance of survival. Vesemir finds Tomas's medallion on the medallion tree. He starts crying because he feels like he let him down. He promised it would be fine, and it was not fine. The medallion starts vibrating, and he finds himself in the laboratory where the mutagens are administered. Vesemir then meets one of the mages who is in charge of making the herbs and mutagens. But the mage says that is not his only job. He also works on crossbreeding and engineering different monsters. Rydrick, which is the mage's name by the way, says that he and his mages guard the secrets to mutagenetic alchemy. So only a small group of people know how to create witchers or change monsters. Deglin informs Vesemir that a letter was sent to him. Vesemir confronts Deglin about the trial, and Deglin doesn't really give an answer to why the Red Swamp trial exists. The letter is from Ileana. She tells him that his father had died. He was killed while trying to help the Lord and Lady escape because Cadwyn had invaded their village. Ileana also states how a noble Cadwyn family has claimed her as theirs, and that they are much kinder. They have taught her to read and write and even let her paint. She is happy with her fate. She tells Vesemir to forget about her and live his life to the fullest. While the letter is being read, we see the trial of the grasses take place and the trial of the dreams. This is where mutagens and herbs are given to the recruits. These give them their increased strength and speed. It also gives them night vision, but it also sterilizes them. We then return to the present and we see Vesemir riding out of Kaer Morhen. We see that Vesemir is wearing Tomas's medallion, perhaps as a friendly reminder or tribute to an old friend. Then we see a montage of Vesemir on the path. In the next scene, Vesemir and Luca are having a few drinks at a local tavern, chatting up some ladies, when a knight provokes them. Vesemir even quips and says, "Is this the your kind bit?" I don't know if people just want the achievement of defeating a witcher, or if they truly hate them, but it's a bad idea to provoke a witcher. The knight draws his sword and Luca draws his, and well, the knight dies. In the next scene, we return to Cadwyn's council meeting, where Tetra wants Luca and Vesemir executed for killing the knights at the tavern, and Lady Zerbst is defending them. Lady Zerbst even has witnesses saying the knights started the altercation with the witchers, and they were just defending themselves. Tetra has none of that. You can really see how biased she is, trying at any opportunity to tarnish the witchers. Lady Zerbst does agree with her that it will look bad if they just let the witchers go free, however, especially with all the attacks happening in the woods around Cadwyn. So she suggests that one of the witchers hunts whatever in the woods to earn them their freedom. In the next scene, Vesemir gets removed from his cell and gets put into a storage room. On the table sits a honey cake. This is where they officially reveal that Lady Zerbst is Ileana. But I think most have figured that out by now. When Vesemir sees her for the first time, you can tell they did share something special at one time. Or at least to him. The two reminisce for a while until a guard comes in and checks on them. She then acts as if she does not know the Witcher. This act is to protect herself in court. If they knew she and Vesemir are good friends, they would then think less of her opinion when it comes to the Witchers. Lady Zerbst tells Vesemir of the deal the king has agreed to. Kill whatever is in the woods outside of Cadwyn and go free. Vesemir agrees to do it, but he finds out that there will be a chaperone that will accompany him. Tetra Gilchrist, the person who despises the Witchers. Her reasoning for probably wanting to go on this is to get proof that Witchers are behind these attacks or are up to something else. Any dirt really she can get on them so she can convince the king to attack them. Vesemir fills her in that an elf may be bewitching the monsters in the woods to attack and act strangely. The two sit down at a fire and she tells Vesemir a story of a priest who was dying. A witcher believed that the priest had been cursed, and if he would slay whoever had placed the curse, the priest would start to feel well again. The priest accused a local sorceress of the deed who always gave him trouble. The witcher killed the sorceress and the priest started to feel better. The priest paid the witcher in gems and jewels. A few days after the witcher left, the priest found a jewel amongst his cook's belongings, the same kind of jewel he paid the Witcher. So this was a clever ruse on the Witcher's part. He had the cook poison the priest, and then he would cut him in on the profit from the contract being fulfilled. Vesemir was quite impressed with the con. He even said he wished he would have thought of it. Tetra did not seem too happy with his answer. In the next scene, they start on the hunt again, and Tetra realizes that there is an illusion up. She disposes of it. Tetra is quite impressed by the illusion, saying whoever did this is quite powerful. This further bolsters Vesemir's theory that the Leshen was bewitched, and that the other monsters must be as well. The two stumble into the thing that is doing it. It happens to be the elf Villavandrel mentioned earlier, Kitsu. But she does not look like an elf. She looks very different, as if something traumatic had happened to her. We then find out why Kitsu is attacking. It is because people are getting close to her den, and she does not like it. So the Leshen in the first scene says, "Beware the dead of my den." This was a warning to stay away. A basilisk starts to climb and join Kitsu on top of the pillar. Tetra remarks how she has never seen this species of basilisk. So the monsters that are linked to Kitsu seem to be changing, mutating. Vesemir starts to charge towards the beast, and the battle begins. The creature is going strong. It withstands the sign of Igni Vesemir casts. Tetra is able to hurt it by casting a spell and sending a giant arrow towards it. The creature releases its very deadly toxin, but Vesemir is able to save Tetra by knocking her out of the way with Ard. The two are able to defeat the monster when Tetra seals it in a ball, and Vesemir cooks the beast alive with Igni. Kitsu runs to the creature crying. She is quite torn up about the monster's death. Kitsu then transforms into a fox and runs away into an avalanche. Vesemir gives chase, but is stopped by it. He's able to throw his knife and land a blow. She disappears, and the two realize that the avalanche was another illusion. Tetra comments on her powers of illusion being unnatural. Vesemir brings up how Amar is the first monster he encountered, and also had the ability to create strong illusions. He also comments how Kitsu's blood smells like Amar, which further puzzles the two. Vesemir and Tetra are able to find her den. It is full of dead elves, all of them being girls. So the girls Villavandrel spoke of earlier that kept disappearing seem to have been kidnapped by Kitsu. Speaking of Villavandrel, we find him in the den tied up. He explains that Kitsu was experimenting on the girls, using some strange alchemy to try and change them to become whatever she's become. They pan over the table where she has her mutagens and alchemy set up, and it looks very similar to the stuff we saw the Witchers use in Kaer. Vesemir is trying to figure out who mutated her, when Tetra explains that Kitsu is a crossbreed, and that she was spliced with Amar. That's why she smells like one and has powerful illusions. Tetra then blames the mages at Kaer for Kitsu, because they are the only ones who know the secret of mutagenetic alchemy. Vesemir denies the claim, but remembers what Deglin said earlier, that a few new beasts would be good for business. He also knows that the mages have worked on crossbreeds. He saw this when he was still a recruit. He starts to have doubts. They then find another elf who was mutated, a child. Tetra wants it dead, but Villavandrel and Vesemir disagree, and Villavandrel takes the child. We may see the child in Season 2 of The Witcher. Elves age very slowly, so she will be fairly young still, and she will be quite the asset to the elves, especially if she's even half as powerful as Kitsu. Vesemir leaves and Tetra stays and destroys the den. Vesemir reports what he saw to Eliana. She knows nothing good can come from this. Vesemir needs to know if his Witcher brothers are behind this. She doesn't want him to go, but she knows he has to. Kitsu returns to her destroyed den, and Tetra meets her and says Vesemir was the one who destroyed her den, gaining a powerful ally to combat the Witchers in the battle to come. Tetra brings the news of the crossbreeds to the king, and they execute Luca, the Witcher who is still being held. Tetra has played this perfectly, and now she can attack the Witcher stronghold with the backing of the king. Vesemir returns to Kaer to see if they are behind the crossbreeds. He quickly finds evidence of it in the lower levels of the stronghold. Deglin meets him down there to explain his reasoning. That monsters were going extinct. Their way of life would be over. Now there will be plenty of work for everyone. Plenty of coin to go around. Vesemir tells him we hunt monsters, we don't create them. That this is wrong. Deglin replies by saying, when all the monsters are gone, humans will come for us next. The only thing that keeps us around is keeping scarier beasts away. Which is pretty true. The elves were slaughtered and moved from their lands because they are different. Humans have been able to tolerate witchers because of what they do for them. But many still hate witchers and look at them as mutants. Without purpose for them, they would get rid of them. Vesemir gives Deglin an ultimatum. To destroy the crossbreeds, or I will. Deglin draws his sword and starts fighting Vesemir. Rydrik breaks them up and reveals that they have a visitor, Ileana. She informs the Witchers that Tetra and her guild and fanatics are coming to attack. The Witcher mages are going to lock themselves in the lab. They are very important to the Witchers because without them, no more Witchers can be made. The rest of the Witchers will meet the attackers on the bridge. Ileana will hide in the cellar with the recruits, so with Geralt, Lambert, and Eskel. Before heading off, Vesemir and Ileana share a kiss. Vesemir still sees the girl he was in love with all those years ago. Vesemir and Deglin meet Tetra on the bridge. Vesemir tries to defuse the situation, which almost works, but Deglin ruined it. Tetra and her followers open a portal to the Red Swamp. Kitsu is there and she is bewitching them to go through and attack the Witchers with the humans. Deglin and Vesemir ride back to prepare for the attack. The monsters are charging down the bridge and Vesemir and the other Witchers are ready to be cast. Now usually to cast a spell you need fingers to do it, but they must be changing this because Sven seems to be able to cast with his stump. Personally, I think Igni would have made more sense here, but whatever. We then see Vesemir charge into battle. Deglin sees that Tetra has created another portal. He believes she is going after Rydrik and the other mages. Deglin and Vesemir head towards the lab. We then see Sven's severed head get thrown towards Deglin. He was not able to hold the bridge, it seems. Ileana is with the recruits and the stronghold seems to be crumbling around them. Geralt mentions to her that there is a way out. She tells them to escape. The boys head out and she stays behind. We then see the Witcher mages surrounded by Tetra. Ileana shows up to try and convince Tetra to stop the attack, but she refuses and orders Ileana to be killed as well. Vesemir then comes flying in to try and save the mages and Ileana. He has drunk a potion, so he is ready for battle. But Kitsu is there to stop him and uses her powers of illusion to make Vesemir see twisted memories of him and Ileana. Then we see what Vesemir wants, to be at a lake house with Ileana, being a family. Vesemir tries to break free from the illusion, but Kitsu is reading his thoughts and tries to guilt him to stay. She knows he feels guilty for leaving Ileana all those years ago. Vesemir is finally able to break free from the illusion and kill the knights who have surrounded the mages. Tetra and Vesemir face off now. The two have quite the fight with one another. He's able to behead her and finish off Kitsu. But this was just another illusion, and he actually kills Rydrik and he stabbed Ileana. Quite the cruel trick by Tetra and Kitsu. Tetra then shoots Vesemir with a couple of arrows. She then reveals her mother was the sorceress the Witcher killed in the story she told earlier around the campfire. This is why she despises Witchers. While she is delivering this monologue, she is killed from behind by Deglin. Deglin informs Vesemir that he is the only one left. The rest of the Witchers have been killed. Ileana also informs Vesemir that the recruits are still alive. Deglin tells him that the boys are his, and to make them something more, and he dies. It's almost like passing the torch in a way. Vesemir starts to carry Ileana out of Kaer when he notices Kitsu. Ileana tells him to leave her be, and he walks out. We may see Kitsu in the upcoming season of The Witcher since she is still alive. That would be pretty cool actually to see. Kaer pretty much blows up and Vesemir and Ileana leave on horseback. Vesemir brings her to the lake where the two would play as teenagers, and she dies in his arms as the sun rose and glistened off the lake. Vesemir then finds the recruits. He gives them a choice if they want to become Witchers or not. And this is the part where they reveal Geralt is part of the recruits. Some of you may be wondering why he's bald. Geralt was selected for additional mutations due to his brilliant success in training. He is the only one to survive these additional mutations. This could be why his hair is gone. So what did you guys think of Nightmare of the Wolf? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Leave it down in the comments below. And if you want more Witcher content, please subscribe and like the video. Check out the Twitter as well, link in the description below. And as always, have an awesome day.